In the dark castle, a lonely man was waiting longingly. Even after all the souls he has stolen, and all the lives that have been lost, he regrets nothing. Standing before a huge magic circle, the black magician was willing to turn into a monster just to get back to her. Karma. The more good deeds are accumulated, the more good things will come back to one, including money, fame, and even love. Who chose to live only with virtue and expected to receive good fortune in return. Now, he can only wonder where he went wrong. No matter how much effort you put in, your good intentions, they always show him the fangs. The young man had just turned 25 and dedicated his life to doing only good things. As a child, he once climbed a tall tree to retrieve a soccer ball for other children. After reaching the top with a big smile on his face, he managed to take it and throw it to those waiting below. They thank him superficially after catching him and turn around to resume their game. The tree ladder is knocked down, but they don't even care and ignore the screams of the boy who helped them. Feeling hopeless and with no other option, he decides to jump from the top. Although he lands impressively standing on the ground, the force of the impact leaves him with a bruised ankle. It was so unfair, especially because I was just trying to do something good. As if to prove his point, the ball from earlier hits him in the face. He has always tried to do the right thing by those around him. One day at school, he saw a ribbon lying in the middle of the hallways. Thinking that someone had lost it, he picked it up with the intention of taking it to the lost and found. Before he could do so, a harsh voice called out to him. It was a group of rude boys, accusing him of having taken the girl's bathroom lasso. The very idea was ridiculous, but he could not defend himself, since some girls nearby were already calling him a peeping Tom. With faces of disgust and mockery, everyone calls him a pervert. Try to clear up the misunderstanding several times. However, one of the guys had already put his hand on her, saying that he hates such people. At his incitement, everyone began to trample on Kilo's helpless body. Even after growing up a little, the situation did not change. Every time I tried to do something good, I always ended up suffering for no reason. Once, a beggar came up to him and asked for some change, so he searched his pockets for something to give him. He had barely anything left and probably wouldn't make ends meet with what he had. Apologizing, he handed a few coins to the poor man, who surprisingly despised him for giving him so little. While he was trying to understand what he had just heard, a bird dropping suddenly fell on his head. The beggar said he deserved it for being a scumbag. Everything was too irrational, as if the world had turned against him. But there was one thing he knew for sure: he would never give up. Considering everything that had happened, luck should be on his side one day. While he was at the crosswalk, an elderly woman called him and asked if he could help her cross the street. The young man gladly offers to carry her bags and allows her to lean on him while they walk. They cross in a jiffy, but her expression suddenly changed as he wished her a nice day. She screamed for help out of nowhere and accused him of attacking her. As before, his attempts to set the record straight failed as the loud accusations rang out, and people immediately assumed that he really was a terrible person. All he did was help her cross the street. He did nothing wrong, but he had no choice but to run away to save himself. Barely managing to escape, he realized that it must be a curse, but he had no idea why it was happening. Just then, a flower pot fell from above on the man who never had a single malicious thought in his life. The pottery shattered along with his head, and he was on the ground, shaking with no idea what had happened. His whole body ached. While he was waiting for someone to help him, the old lady from earlier appeared, saying that she had found him. As he screamed for help, she raised her cane over his helpless body. He brings him down hard and deals him a painful blow, but he doesn't stop there. Against her trembling hands, the woman continued to beat with all her might, killing a young and innocent man who just wanted to help others. Quillo's eyes suddenly opened and he sat up suddenly, wondering if he was dead. A bright and glorious door appeared before him. With her came a divine angel who greeted him with a kind smile. Extending his hand, he introduced himself as Gabriel. He's come to show the boy where he's going now. To his surprise, the next destination is hell. Unable to believe it, he furiously hit the ground with his fist, saying that he did nothing but spend his whole life living well. Hearing this, the angel reflected for a moment and confirmed that his words were true. As the numbers did not add up, he investigated it and summoned the scale to check what could have happened. The side with red flames fell with an incredible weight. Unsurprisingly, there was a design flaw, as he lived a life with all his karma reversed. Every living creature has karmic energy. Normally, the more good deeds one does, the more likely it is that the good will come back to him. It is exactly the opposite in his case, and his kindness instead generated negative karma. Because he has done a massive amount of good, his karma is in the worst possible state, even worse than that of any heinous criminal. I couldn't believe it. Despite everything he did, he's going to end up getting the punishment. Supreme, Gabriel confirms that he was indeed destined to suffer eternal agony in hell. Fortunately, she is an angel who never abandons those who are under her protection. To find a solution immediately, he snapped his fingers and summoned images from the various worlds of the universe. The earth was right in front of them, but unfortunately it cannot return the boy to his original world, where magic does not exist. The only option is to send him somewhere else, at least to a world where someone similar to him exists. Opening a portal to a huge castle, the divine being suggests to go there. It's a place with multidimensional magic, and the magician inside has just tried a forbidden spell, leaving him with a body devoid of soul. Keel will take his place and live his life. Even if it is not clear now, you will understand soon, and you will be given a small gift to compensate for your invested karma. A screen flashes before his eyes, saying that he has supreme karma, an ability that temporarily grants 100 luck points for every good deed. The young man is told to find the white wizard, as he is the only one who can send him back to Earth. When he sees this mission appear, he is left without knowing what exactly he can do to complete it. Unfortunately, Gabriel does not know either, since he cannot interfere with what is happening in the universe. With a bright smile, she assures the boy that luck will be on his side this time. He apologizes one last time, and sends the young soul through the portal to his new world. Keo could feel himself falling for a while. Suddenly, he opened his eyes as a completely different person. He was in an unfamiliar and empty living room, and although it sounds ridiculous, it is true that he was given a second chance in life. Now, he just has to find the white wizard and return to Earth, to his old life. Walking forward, he goes to a large mirror and takes a look at his new appearance. He's surprisingly handsome and not bad at all. Now, you just need to know about the life that the former owner of the body led. While he was thinking about it, the door behind him opened wide and let a bright light into the dark room. To his surprise and amazement, voices roared from the other room, bowing to him and hailing the almighty black magician. As if that wasn't enough, everyone in front of him was monsters. A servant approached from behind, asking his master not to forget his robe. Orcs, goblins and demons were screaming for the man who never performed a single good deed, and is known for committing the most heinous crimes in the world. The embodiment of evil itself, the black magician, Quillo urgently closed the door with trembling hands. Seeing the monster army cheering for him, he realized that he had to get out of there soon. Just then, the servant from earlier checked if everything was okay, asked who the hell is he. The goblin's name is Groot, the new counselor of the Lord, who was assigned just yesterday. As for the hundreds of monsters in front of his castle, the black magician supposedly ordered everyone to gather today. After all, he was planning an attack on the surrounding human villages, which urgently tells him to cancel all plans related to that immediately. Immediately, the counselor is surprised and disappointed, saying that he thought this was what the Lord wanted. Cursing under his breath to himself, he feels he has no choice and snaps his fingers. The flames consumed his body, but he remained emotionless. Not understanding why it was catching fire, the Lord's body moved on its own and used his magic to dispel the flames, leaving his servant in shock. With this, the system window appeared next to him, saying that the supreme karma skill had been activated. Grun knelt down, begging for forgiveness and asking for the mercy of death. He understands that it was his mistake, but he does not want to end up like the previous counselors, whose cries of their souls still echo in the corridors of the castle, who either does not understand what he is talking about. So the goblin points to the walls. There, countless heads were placed on the wall, each one belonging to a counselor sentenced to death. It's an amazing sight that makes you wonder what they did to end up like this. Not a single one lasted in the post, as all were brutally sentenced to death for trivial sins. It was horrible. In this world, the real monster was him. At being called, Gret turned with his whole body, shaking. Upon seeing this, he is told that Kyo has no intention of harming him, and is made a life advisor to the Black Magician from that moment on. The goblin does not know how to thank him for the unexpected honor. For now, he is told that he answers even your strangest questions, and is asked who he is. He is the greatest Black Magician in the universe, so much so that his name is literally the Black Magician. Assuming that they were just testing their knowledge as an advisor, Grund continued to answer, explaining that they are in his impregnable castle that rules the southern lands, and serves as the headquarters for his army of monsters, who reincarnated as someone who is a serial killer at the helm of a monster kingdom. When asked how long he has been ruling the earth, the worried goblin does some calculations, and says 40 minutes at the beginning. He realizes that it is ridiculous and corrects it to 40,000 million of years. Since none of them were right, Grund thinks he's made a fatal mistake again, one enough to make him point a dagger at his chest. Fortunately, the hasty action is stopped immediately, but doing so provokes a familiar response. The supreme karma is activated, but that is too much. Worried, ordering the counselor to keep living to notice. If he tries anything else, he will face a worse execution than any of his predecessors experienced. The lantern fortunately works, allowing the Black Magician to move on to his main mission of finding the White Magician as soon as possible. No matter how terrible his life is, he must return to Earth somehow. No matter how much fate tries to bring him down, he has to go back to his mother, who always used to comfort him. She gave him the strength to keep going, and it is the greatest treasure of his life. He will definitely see her again. Kyo wonders if others can see the system window, but Grunt confirms that he can't. With this information, he goes on to ask about the White Magician. However, the mere mention of the name causes chills in all living beings nearby. The goblin suddenly gritted his teeth, and went on to call him the most despicable scum in the world. Skipping the vivid insults, Kyo thanks him, and wonders what kind of magic he uses. He manipulates multidimensional magic that creates vortices to send them to different worlds. In fact, thousands of his men have already been eliminated by this technique. Multidimensional magic proves that he is the only one who can send him home. The otherworldly one checks if he can use the same kind of magic, but it is completely incompatible with his black attribute. In other words, he has no choice but to ask for help. Unfortunately, the White Magician is his greatest archenemy, who would choose death over helping him. That's natural, although I should be able to get some help from Gabriel's blessing. By checking the additional information of the Supreme Karma, he sees that the probability of fulfilling his wishes increases proportionally to his lucky points. It means that you can achieve your goal by accumulating good deed points. After saving Gret's life twice, he should have earned 200 points by now. He goes ahead and takes a look to confirm, but is surprised to see that his point counter is still at 0. Wondering if it's a bug in the system, do some research. Little else, and is surprised by what he finds. His state of karma was eternally cursed, and he set a new record for misfortune. To make matters worse, his luck is sealed, and he can't beat 0. As I was starting to wonder what to do next, another window appeared with a new mission. To lift the curse and unlock his luck, he has to perform a special good deed. Kyo left the castle with Gret by his side. With his lucky value sealed at 0 points, he first has to find a way to complete his mission and break the curse. That said, he doesn't even know what he's supposed to, which is a special good deed. It seems that keeping his counselor alive was not enough, but he will not give up. Collecting points for the castle has not been so easy either. Once, he stopped the beheading of a well-known criminal in his world, even ordering his release in front of a whole crowd. Several protested, disappointed by the Lord, as they had been waiting for the execution for a long time. Gret justified his actions, saying that the serial killer will commit more crimes once released. Before the information was assimilated, the goblins seconded the order, which led to a massacre. It creates immediate of the citizens in the audience. Kyo could not accumulate luck there, so he has to find another way to perform a special good deed. He needs to let his mom know he's still alive. Grant was visibly worried. having a bad feeling about infiltrating the Western territory. He questioned their plan, adding that they don't even know when the soldiers might attack. Since it can't be helped, he says they just have to do it. Soon, they arrive at the village near the castle, which is said to be the home of a certain white wizard. The users of multidimensional magic are members of the cult of the Immaculate Order, led by the white magician. Those of the order are his disciples, but they should be able to bribe one who was expelled. Fortunately, the one in the village should take that job. Tyria was expelled after earning money by doing a multidimensional magic show. This also earned her the name of the greedy Tyria. Everything is convenient for the black magician, known for being particularly rich, as the ruler of his own kingdom. As they enter the small village, they see a little boy crouching by the well. Brunt sees the young human male completely alone and helpless, and decides to finish him off for his beloved master, stopping him and saying that he has a better idea, that he approached the boy and asked him what he was doing there without his parents. Unfortunately, his father is very much in debt to a magician, and he has to help pay for it. He confirms that the magician in question is the greedy Tyria, who should be giving her usual show for everyone in the tavern. The Lord is ready to go there immediately, but his counselor still intended to cut the human and serve him as sashimi. To his surprise, Kyo gives the boy a single gold coin. His eyes sparkled with hope in contrast to the black magician, who is disappointed that it is not enough for his mission. On the other hand, Grund protested the idea of giving a human a gold coin, so his master doubles down and gives him a whole bag. While this provokes various reactions, Kyo was only worried about how it is still not enough to complete his mission. Wondering why someone so feared would do something so out of character, he sees the boy smiling with joy, and considering the Dark Lord as his hero, an idea clicks in his head, and he mistakenly believes that Kyo intends to make him his successor. In an attempt to get closer to his hero, the boy will commit countless atrocities, and eventually become his ally, to rule the southern lands. Although this is far from the real purpose, it is enough to calm the goblin's heart. Inside the tavern was the usual sight of people enjoying their drinks. Tyria was nowhere to be found in the crowd, but there was something else that caught their attention. Everyone stared and fell silent when a single mirror in the middle of the room began to shine. Grunt warns his lord, as it was multidimensional magic in action. The live broadcast of beings professing love to each other was playing in front of everyone. When they were reaching their climax, a tentacled creature stopped with a request, and suddenly tore a tentacle from his face. He asked his beloved to take him away. She was bewildered, and about to give her answer, when the screen went off out of nowhere. It was the end of the transmission. Cut to the best part, viewers were fervently wondering what was going to happen next. To restart the connection and access what was happening, they had to insert a gold coin. An avid viewer violently insists that it was someone else's turn to pay the fee. However, he argues that he has already spent all his savings there and wants to see something else. The tension and their voices increased as X slowly and quietly walked over to the device and placed a coin before anyone could object. Accepting his payment, he released a blinding light and instructed him to put his hand and think about the place he wished to observe. It was like a remote control. Arguments are replaced by joy at seeing the machine turn on. Against his expectations, the man in the robe chooses to observe what is happening on Earth. He is not sure exactly how it works, but he thinks intensely about the person he wants to see. Her eyes widened in surprise when the image of her mother appeared. Not caring about the people around him, he called her and tried to get through the screen. Everyone saw her walking in the rain and passing by neighbors to exchange empty and lifeless greetings. It was impossible not to feel sorry, since it has only been a month since her son passed away. The poor mother has not yet been able to recover. Driving her car with a single stem of a white flower, she drove to the resting place of Quillo and stood there, alone and silent, while looking at the funeral photo of her dead son. After laying the flower, he left to rejoin society. An impossible task for a father who has just lost his son. She fell to her knees in the middle of the street, unable to stop crying even after the rain subsided. Her grief for her son was unimaginable, and the only thing she thought about every day was how much she missed him. How was I supposed to live without him? In the tavern, All the men were watching the scene with unhappy faces, and soon burst into tears for the heartbreaking moment. Even Grunt couldn't help but cry. Noticing his master, he asks him if tears are part of his powers, but is surprised when Kilo suddenly falls to the ground. She couldn't accept what was happening to her mother. He finally understood the pain it was causing him, and the painful result of his death on Earth. That Us refused to accept the unfair thing the world was doing to him. Moreover, he refused to allow his mother to cry in such a way. He hits the mirror, desperate to be heard from the other side. Grunt tells him to step aside, as multidimensional magic could destroy him, but all he cared about was reaching the person he loves the most. In response, the device activated its security measures and sent magical shockwaves that traveled throughout his body. Still, he endured it with everything he had, reaffirming his determination to achieve his goal. He was still alive, and I had to let him know. Therefore, he used his own magic to get through the sock and the mirror. Finally, her screams reached her mother's ears. She turned around and was stunned to see the blinding light of the spell, even more so when the image of her son appeared, asking if she could see him. I couldn't believe it was really him. There was not enough time to explain what happened, so she just asked him to hang in there and wait for him to come back to her. The mother was still crying, but her desolate face was now smiling hopefully. Together, they agreed to meet again very soon. Unfortunately, Kyo has exhausted all his magical power and could not keep the connection any longer. The system appeared, granting him the special good deed, the love of a mother. He managed to get it and complete the mission. By putting an end to his mother's fountain of tears, he had successfully lifted the seal. His eternal curse now converted him. In the dam, Gabriel's luck points and karma that were temporarily disabled can now be used at will, if only for a short time. Accumulating good deeds should multiply your luck. Before I could think about it anymore, the men from before continued their discussion about the show. One had nothing, and used his feet, barefoot after selling his shoes, to kick another person away. Just like that, a massive fight spread all over the bar, all because they wanted to see a show. In fact, they seemed willing to give up everything for it. Grunt urges his master to leave before the multidimensional magic drives everyone crazy. However, a pint of beer hit his head and spilled all over his clothes. What was left of his patience quickly faded, and he took off his hood to curse and kill the despicable humans. For some reason, Keel sniffed the head. The smell of the beer was strange, but he is sure to have encountered it before. In the memories of the Black Magician, he has made a similar mixture, an addictive elixir. He moves to check the barrels and calls his counselor to join him. There was something wrong at the tavern, probably hidden nearby. Unsurprisingly, he finds a bottle containing a strange blue liquid stuck to the beer containers. He confirms his suspicions as soon as he detaches it and takes a look. It's the addictive elixir, not unlike the one he made. Tyria adulterated alcohol to make everyone dependent on her magic and take her money. Probably this is what happened to the boy by the well, whose father blindly wasted all his family's money there. Just at that moment, the noisy men from earlier called the weird and low strangers. Since they started the last broadcast, they must have money to spend, and now they are forcing them to use it on their useless shows. His aggression provokes Grunt, who refuses to tolerate threats against his master. Fortunately, Kyo stops him before he kills everyone in the room, saying that he knows a way to save everyone. In the Black Magician's mind, there were clear memories of the elixir antidote. All the formulas and needs were recorded somewhere. She finds him soon, and immediately chimes the spell that can free the victims. First he throws it on everyone in the tavern. A strange clarity suddenly invaded the room, and each client's mind cleared, allowing them to remember their families. Next, a huge magic circle appeared over the village, and the antidote was thrown over everyone else who might be affected. There were some arguing at home, as a husband wanted to sell all his things to watch a random football game in the bar. Reached by the spell, he realized what he was doing, and apologized to his beautiful daughter for losing her mind for a moment. As if nothing had happened, the people were left in peace, completely purified of the running elixir. It broke its residence. Grun looked around confused, not understanding why everyone was so much nicer than before. Their master's magic had stripped them of all aggression in their bodies. He considers it the best punishment, since none of them will ever taste the joy of battle again. Those who were once like proud lions have now become as helpless as worms. As usual, he believes that the ferocity of his lord is unparalleled in this world. Meanwhile, Quilla was worried, as purifying the village granted him a massive amount of luck points that were arriving endlessly. He was perfect, and everything was going according to his plan. With his luck, about 240,000, he can finally get what he wants the most using multidimensional magic. However, the walls of the tavern suddenly exploded. They all turned towards the smoke, but didn't seem too bothered, as it was only Tyria, whom they already knew. The banished Mage stepped forward and demanded to know who was trying to ruin her business. The outsiders meet Tyria for the first time and are shocked to discover that she is actually a woman. He confirms his bad suspicions and sees that all the elixir has evaporated from the beer. A search is made in the crowd for the culprit of the mass purification, but all the regular customers denied that they had done anything to the drinks. Therefore, he turns his attention to the two people, the weird man and the brat, as he had never seen them there before. Before they could respond, he finds against the bottles, which were once connected to the barrels, overturned on the ground. Quillo is accused of being a member of the Order, who is now also coming for her, telling her to remember her words. Swears that she will never give in to trash like them, and summons a flaming magic circle under her feet. The black magician cursed everything. The circle of flames and its power were very vivid in his memories. Since there was no time to think, he allows his guts and instincts to move his body, which for some reason throws a gold coin somewhere next to him. He freezes up, completely confused by the result of his intuition. Tyria was totally determined to kill him on the spot, and the huge explosion under him proved it. While completely consuming him, his supreme karma kicked in, leaving him with 3 minutes of pure luck. The coin he threw earlier hit a water pipe that, with miraculous luck, burst and extinguished all the flames that were covering him. None of the magicians could believe what had just happened, but it was a situation too on the edge to be calm. Kyo wonders if he activated a spell unconsciously, just like when he saved Gron in the castle. But what happened now doesn't feel the same at all. He just flipped a coin. Seeing it embedded in the pipe, he finally understands how it works. Meanwhile, the goblin was not spared from the fire and had no choice but to take off the robe that covered his identity. Unfortunately, this reveals his true nature to all humans around him. After an awkward pause, the reality that there was a monster there set in and the humans charged in to kill their sworn enemy. Kyo stepped between them and told his counselor to stay back. He also took off his cloak, but instead of anger and violence, fear filled the hearts of the humans, as they realized that they were in the presence of the infamous black magician. Each and every one of them fled, except the banished member of the Order. For some reason, Tyria smiled as she greeted the great enemy in person. The bounty on his head is worth 100 billion gold coins, but from what he has heard, he was so weak and immaculate that the white magician looked away from him in shame. If he puts everything he has in, he might be able to beat it and become the richest person at the end of it all. It's a pity, but that he hasn't mastered his powers yet, and he would die if he fought head-on. So he has to bet everything on luck once again. He praises and admires the opponent in front of him, but adds that she might lack enough concentration. The flames he unleashed earlier had ignited a trail of alcohol that led to the rest of the barrels. As she belatedly realizes this, that Oya was retreating to a safe place with Groot in her arms. He moved by pure instinct, which urged him to jump out of the nearest open window. They meet the cold night air as they fall to the ground. As the fire continued to advance, the two landed inside a metal tank and locked themselves in to get to safety. Just a second later, the entire tavern was engulfed in a huge explosion, destroying everything except the tank they were hiding in. Now, all that was left was to escape under cover of the smoke. They walked through the remains of the establishment, still on fire, while Groot jumped for joy at the thought of deliciously roasted humans. However, the battle was not over yet, as Tyria appeared and called the black magician, saying that he still had 100 years left before he could defeat her. He looked at his system window and saw that his luck still had a minute left, which means he has to move now if he wants to defeat the enemy somehow. With this, he teases her, stating that she doesn't even need to use her power to win, and asked her if she honestly thinks she can beat him. This provokes her, as expected. The greedy white magician shoots out a torrent of flames, unwilling to be belittled. He is almost reduced to ashes, but Kyo trips over a rock and dodges the blow by falling to the ground. He's not finished yet. He summons another magic circle below him and several more in the surrounding areas. There was no escape now, as she was determined to use everything she had to finish him off. Fortunately, he had 5 seconds left of his miraculous luck. At the last moment, just as he was about to be cremated, a jet of oil sent him flying high into the sky, away from the fire. I couldn't believe it, but he dodged all her attacks. Nearby citizens saw it and concluded that the explosion of the tavern caused oil to gush from the depths of the underground. Having exhausted all her strength, Tyria helplessly fell to her knees, defeated. He couldn't even move anymore, and he wondered if this was really where he was going to die. To his surprise, the flames disappeared. Grunt called his master, saying that it was too early, and that she had not cooked enough yet. They don't get it, but Kyo came over and knelt down next to her enemy, promising that he had no intention of leaving her there. As he looks at her weakened face, a memory invades his mind. Among the black magician's memories, he sees the original owner of the body collapse in the middle of a burning chapel. Through tears, he held the lifeless body of a woman in the midst of heat and destruction. He screamed in agony and pain, refusing to accept that she had just died in his arms. Tyria was blushing because of how close they were holding her. While Kyo was thinking about the woman who died in the black magician's arms, the one who was in his suddenly leaned over to kiss him on the lips. Surprised by the unexpected action, he turned as red as a tomato and jumped away, wondering what the hell he was doing on his own. She apologizes and says she thought it was what he wanted her to do. Feeling that it was his fault, he turns his head and explains that he was just lost in his thoughts. Anyway, the girl is ready to do anything he asks if he spares her life. The black magician assures her that he has no intention of killing her. He extends his hand to her and asks her to follow him instead. It just so happened that he needs his power. Although confused, she takes his hand and walks beside him. Meanwhile, Grunt froze, his jaw slack and unable to comprehend what was happening in front of him. A check of his window tells Kyo that all his luck bonuses have been used up and his power has vanished. Now his lucky points were back to 0. He was able to release the power earlier thanks to his connection with his mother, but only temporarily. It's probably due to his cursed state that he should have a mission that can fix it. Taking a look, he is surprised to see a tab that says he has committed to many atrocities, but he cannot explore it further, because they have already arrived at Turge's residence. She says it's a bit cramped, even though it's completely spacious and luxurious inside. While Grunt was shining for the gold, Kyo asks if he was bought with the villagers' money, to which she assures him that the mansion, at least, was inherited from his parents. It smelled like a lie. Moving on from that, he tells her directly that he needs her multidimensional magic, particularly to go to another planet. The statement causes her to call him crazy, but she doesn't even get far before finding the goblin's sword near his face. When telling her to watch her words, she simply explains that he is too weak, as his request requires astronomical levels of mana. Only the white magician would be able to do that. With his current power, the only thing he can do is see the state of the other worlds. Alas, returning to his world won't be so easy after all. He smiles to himself, finding it fortunate that he is the almighty black magician. Negro who will surely improve if he is taught the basics. Therefore, he tells her to act as his magic teacher and pass on everything she knows to him. The ridiculous request makes her ask if he's an idiot who has lost his mind. But Grunt's look turns it into a polite questioning of the strange request. The Golan says that his lord is testing his knowledge, and not getting it right would lead to being consumed by merciless flames. Understanding the situation, he shares that he honestly cannot teach him simply because he is the black magician. Even if he is the great and all-powerful black magician. There are two opposite types of magic in the world, white magic and black magic. The more a magician masters one side, the more unusable the other becomes. In other words, the Lord of Black Magic, and sworn enemy of the White Magician, cannot learn the technique. In addition, multidimensional magic is the epitome of white magic spells. For someone who has mastered the other side of the coin, it is the least compatible power, almost like telling a shark to go climbing mountains. Their conversation is interrupted by loud noises nearby, causing the three of them to run to the windows to look. There, they see villagers armed with torches and killer whales to punish their enemies. To make matters worse, they have brought in soldiers to support their cause. Tyria corrects them and says that it is the Immaculate Order. Everyone stepped aside to form a path. Walking along it, there was the White Magician, whose very presence sent chills cold on the backs of his enemies. It was all over. Kyo did not imagine that his greatest adversary would arrive so soon. Since he's not an opponent he can fight, he has no choice but to run away right now, but he wouldn't feel. Unfortunately, she can't just leave her palace, along with all his money. He doesn't care about that and drags her down. Before they could get to them, the Lord of the Monsters summoned a magic circle to take them all back home. They disappeared at that instant, leaving nothing but the traces of the circle for the villagers to find. They were too late. Back at the dark castle, a group of supporters gathered around a family circle and chanted for the space to bend and the doors to open. Kyo and the others appeared at the center, and he is glad to see that they returned safely to their fortress. It's fortunate that he prepared an emergency escape route in advance, particularly with the transfer magic that Grunt helped set up. Just when he was finally starting to appreciate black magic, he saw the followers around him fall to the ground one by one, until none were left standing. When he asked what the hell was going on, the goblin simply explained that they are the corpses of those sacrificed for transfer magic. Their bodies lay there, mangled. Grunt was proud of teleportation magic, which is one of the most powerful spells in the goblin world. Kyo was furious about not being informed, but the counselor considered it such a minor and irrelevant detail. What he didn't know is how those little details now filled his teacher with bad deeds that contributed to his karma. In a flashback, a busy city street was full of merchants and townspeople going about their business. Inside a shop, a young woman, Silva, who would become a witch in the future, was silently sweeping the floor surrounded by stacked goods and ceramics. Startled, she accidentally hit a large earthenware vessel when she lost her balance, which crashed to the ground shattering. Her boss angrily yelled at her, accusing her of breaking her up again, while she was apologizing. Silva backed away, while he yelled at her that she was a complete useless. The boss violently kicked her out of the store and ordered her to get out of his sight. Enraged, he warned her never to come back again. Silva collapsed outside, weakly extending a hand, as tears welled up in her eyes, until the store door slammed shut in front of her, completely isolating her. Silva was walking down the street with her head down, while people around her were whispering and staring at her. The villagers were muttering about her, calling her cursed and warning others to stay away. She sat alone on the floor, ignored as people passed by without helping her. Night fell, and Silva curled up against a wooden pillar as the rain poured down on her. Exhausted and soaked, she lay motionless on the cold stone floor. While she was sleeping, she was shaking as if she was trapped in a painful nightmare. Suddenly, a strange green light appeared nearby and gently pulsed in the darkness. Silva opened his eyes as the glowing green orb spoke directly to him and asked him to eat it. The orb assured him that everything would be fine if he accepted it. In the present, Kyo is by the window at sunset and packing his bags. The screen of his system materializes in front of him, explaining that for every good deed, he earns 100 lucky points. But its effects are temporary. He realizes that this is the ultimate karma system and finally understands how it works. He admits that it was a struggle, but he managed to accumulate some good deeds in this cursed kingdom. Remembering how two orcs were fighting furiously, which prompted Kyo to act as his gaze sharpened. He shouted for the fight to stop as energy surged around him. The two orcs stared at each other as the moment froze and their anger disappeared. His heavy weapon fell instantly as one orc apologized and called the other his brother. The other responds kindly, expressing their mutual compassion. The Keel system notifies and confirms that you have earned 100 lucky points for a good deed. In a few weeks, he manages to increase his luck only a little, but since his current status is that of cursed, he cannot receive the benefits. Activate the ultimate karma, knowing that it is the only way to release your accumulated luck. He decides to consume all the stored lucky points at once, and becomes lucky for the duration of the spent points. Then he learns that luck lasts until the points return to 0. Before the fight is over, purify a village, and save lives worth more than 200,000 lucky points. At that moment, he activates the ultimate karma instinctively, without a conscious decision. For 3 minutes, he exists in a state of absolute and infinite luck. Thanks to that luck, he defeats Tyria effortlessly, and without suffering any damage. Kyo realizes that if he performs a good deed that affects millions, the power of the system will scale infinitely. Clenching his fist, he arms himself with courage with a confident smile and certainty. He declares that with this power, he will finally be able to return to Earth. Without hesitation, he pushes open a huge door and knocks on Grund, asking if everything is ready as he goes. Grund prepares a mount and presents it to you once the preparations are complete. He walks through the door and begins his next journey. Tyria blesses him, wishing Kyo fortune, while Grunty urges everyone to leave immediately. Riding through the city at sunset, Kyo's new adventure officially begins in the confines of the kingdom, to perform a great good deed. Grunt confirms the objective of his mission without hesitation, after Kyo asks him. Meanwhile, Sylva's bright green figure is revealed to be the source of the world's deadliest disease. Kyo agrees and tells Grunt to guide them. The goblin points forward, stating that fate is right there. Kyo freezes up, confused by what right here actually means. Gret proudly reveals a small house, saying that Sylva lives there. Kyo explodes in disbelief, screaming that Gret told him that she lived in the far reaches of the kingdom. Grunt studies the map again, while Kyo clearly remains unconvinced. The goblin mutters that his explanation was very poor. Angry, Kyo points out that the house is only 100 meters from the castle. The two stand awkwardly near the horses as the truth settles in. Annoyed, Kyo orders Grunt to wait at the castle. Go alone to the house. Standing in front of the door, he quietly says Sylva's name, knowing that he is one of the most evil beings on this planet. He arms himself with courage, thinking that if he can purify it, he can save millions. With a tense expression, she prays that the antidote will work. Suddenly, he slams the door open, but recoils in shock. He hesitates and wonders if she is the witch he is looking for. Sylva appears smiling as he greets his teacher. She pounces on him and hugs him tightly, saying that he is finally back. Overwhelmed, she tells him that she missed him terribly. Kyo panics, insisting that it's not what she thinks. Sylva enthusiastically shows him the freshly prepared spores. He proudly holds a shiny spore in his hand. Laughing, he throws her and tells her to see how well they fly. The spores explode outward, dispersing violently. He explains that he improved them by using Kyo's advice, making them much more resilient. He nonchalantly claims that this will ensure that millions more lives will be lost this year. Nearby, a child coughs violently as the spores take effect. Kyo watches in horror as the number of millions echoes in his mind. One victim collapses, reinforcing the scale of the disaster. Sylva claims that she is connected to each spore, and can feel the suffering they cause. She happily thanks him, saying that his help made her stronger. Quilla realizes that she does not understand the damage she is causing. He hands her a medicine, saying that he prepared something to make her even stronger. Silently, Quilla learns about the disease and explains that it is caused by a contamination centered on Sylva. He believes that if she is purified, everything will stop, while he drinks the antidote, joyfully thanking her. Moments later, he says he feels fine, and promises to keep filling the world with spores. Kyo panics as she realizes that even the maximum dose had no effect on her. Gravely, he decides that he has no choice but to review the core of the corruption. A green energy springs up around him as he activates his power. He sees countless bright threads extending outward. Looking at the huge network, he realizes that there are much more than 1 million. Despair takes over him as he admits that corruption is too strong to purify. He whispers Sylva's name, shattered by the truth. Looking back, He remembers when he cheerfully told Selva that his spores would spread all over the continent. A peaceful memory appears, cruelly contrasting with the present. Selva smiles, knowing that the spores fall on men, women, and children alike. He declares that not a single one will be left alive. In a sudden and brutal moment, Scarlet springs up as Selva is shot down. A sword fills the scene as Selva looks up in stunned confusion, as Q's tears run down his face, and he realizes that this is the only way. Selva barely stays on his feet, and calls out to Kyo with waning strength. He looks at her with a broken heart, pointing out that this is the only way to free her until he finally draws his sword. As his body falls, the green core manifests, writhing with evil energy, and calling out to Kyo. The corrupt entity questions his intention and his interference. He admits that killing the host weakened him, but it didn't end with him. Kyo declares that he did not come to challenge him, but to destroy him as he raises his hand. Unleash the eternal flame, flooding the space with overwhelming power. Corruption recoils furiously, screaming at his defiance. He advances towards Kyo, while warning him that he will definitely regret his decision, surrounded by a growing magical production. However, Q's attack detonates upwards, passing through the corrupted entity. His eyes sharpen as he channels absolute control over the spell. The lightning explodes, spreading endlessly beyond the atmosphere. An energy similar to a green ray spreads through the skies. The explosion spreads through the sky, signaling the collapse of corruption. In another place, a sick child lies in bed while energy reaches the world. The boy wakes up shocked as the force returns to his body. A system message appears indicating a good deed, awarding lucky points, while other victims have also recovered. Families are reunited as people realize they are cured, while lucky notifications are quickly piling up all over the city. The planet itself shines as the accumulated good deeds multiply, which he incredulously omits as the numbers increase endlessly. Your lucky points skyrocket beyond all comprehension. The system confirms that his luck has exceeded 1 billion, which leads Kyo to realize that this power guarantees his return to Earth. He gently holds Selva, refusing to abandon his destiny. He promises to save her before he returns home. A slight smile is formed while arming courage. It activates the ultimate karma, enveloping it in divine energy. The system announces that the maximum luck has been reached with limited time remaining. He recognizes the power he has finally gained. The system confirms their state of divine luck, enveloping them both with protection. Meanwhile, a colossal beam of light explodes in space as a UFO is caught in the explosion, causing the pilot to scream in terror. The huge meteorite destroys the UFO in mid-flight, increasing the alien's panic. He realizes that the meteorite is on a collision course with the planet. Elsewhere, the white magician watches as events unfold. It is revealed that he is preparing to annihilate an entire tribe of centaurs. Panic spreads upon the arrival of the White Wizard, as the survivors are ordered to flee immediately. The centaurs are afraid that the White Wizard will try to send them to others. A golden ray is unleashed, but its magic is reflected and shattered by the force of the meteorite. The collision overwhelms the surroundings with a blinding light. The catastrophe ends with absolute domination. A golden ray streaks across the sky, pointing directly at the capital. The impact crashes into the city. Buildings shatter under an overwhelming force. A blinding light bursts out as the blow pierces the ground. Dust and debris consume the ruins in silence. Kyo looks shocked, struggling to process what just happened. His expression hardens when he feels something unnatural. He realizes that the phenomenon is multidimensional magic when he sees his mother on Earth. With such immense power, he thinks he can get through it. Embracing Selva, she begs him not to leave her side and promises to save her with this power. Calling his mother, he arrives at the portal and promises to return as soon as, like I saved Selva. He pushes his body forward while a golden energy lashes him. The resistance overwhelms him, making him hesitate halfway through. He screams desperately, trying to reach his mother through the barrier. She turns around, feeling that something strange is calling her. The door begins to close, completely isolating him. Kyo struggles, realizing he can't get through it. Selva touches his face, weakly telling him that some things in this world cannot be changed. He explains that white magic cannot be used by Kyo as he is a black magician. Even with all the luck in the world, He tells her that the dead cannot be brought back to life, as Kyo kneels in the ruins. His hand is shaking as he leans on the cracked floor. Kyo cries while holding Silva, refusing to accept this ending. His spectral form appears, leaving Kyo speechless. He claims to have seen everything, including his power and his destiny. He tells her that painful decisions are inevitable. Even if your heart is full of regret, you should move on. She admits that she never wanted to hurt anyone, revealing that she just wanted to be loved. Silva thanks him for everything as his form starts to fade. Kyo sees her disappear, his determination hardens. He hugs her for the last time, unable to hide his face from the pain. As she lies in peace, Kyo points out that Silva caused tens of millions of deaths on this planet, and what awaits her is the deepest and darkest of hell. Kyo's system appears and informs him that his ultimate karma will last 1 minute and 30 seconds. Suddenly, he swears that he will never abandon the unluckiest girl on this planet. Forbidden black magic arises while invoking an ancient arcanum, which leads him to enter astral ascension, overcoming the limits of one's own destiny. Silva's lonely soul floats in a crimson void, isolated and suspended in silence. Confusion takes over her as she becomes conscious, unable to recognize her surroundings. She turns, feeling an invisible presence watching her from the darkness. A huge crimson eye opens, revealing the abyss and asserting its dominance. The voice declares that his soul is empty, eroded by an irreparable emptiness. The thought and denial wash over her as she explains that she was manipulated by an evil entity. A judgment screen appears naming Silva as a sinner responsible for countless deaths. The verdict is handed down, which is an eternal punishment, spying through purgatory. The abyss confirms that the records are absolute and unappealable. She is condemned as irredeemable, her fate sealed by an immutable law. He desperately denies the allegations, insisting he never intended to commit such horrors. Tears fall as he realizes that the punishment cannot be undone and calls the verdict unjust. The abyss coldly questions his sense of justice, unmoved by his despair. The crimson eye approaches. His presence is crushing as he orders her to dry her tears. A cruel truth is declared, and that is that no one will come to save her from this fate. Silva's eyes tremble as he pleads for her to stop. Fear takes over her. Suddenly, lightning bursts out as an overwhelming force descends on the crimson. Her body reacts instinctively, a familiar hand holds her gently. Kyo arrives and cuts through the chaos, urging Silva to resist. The abyss reacts with fury, sensing an intruder inside its domain. Black archangels are summoned, with the order to capture the interference immediately, tearing the void with lethal intent. A radiant barrier is formed that protects Silva, while the definitive karma protects them. A huge power bolt explodes, forcing the attackers to retreat as they give chase. Kyo realizes that there are more, and they are still chasing them. The danger is fast approaching. Elsewhere in purgatory, a distant presence stirs at the same moment. Sisyphus continues his eternal punishment, unaware of the distortion that is developing. Her ordeal is finally over, until her ankle suddenly breaks. Another system alert confirms that the definitive karma is still active. The seconds are passing. Sisyphus screams in shock, the rock crashes into him. Suddenly, Kilo sees her rolling, and realizes Sisyphos' situation. The rock is about to hit a sharp edge as Kilo approaches without being able to react. Your lucky value suddenly skyrockets even more as the countdown continues. The colossal mass crashes down, forcing the black archangels to stop. They stand transfixed, stunned by an impossible interruption. The brutal impact follows, completely dispersing them. However, Kyo analyzes himself, declaring that everything is under control. He points out that they have already moved far enough away from purgatory to escape. Confidence fills his expression as he says they are almost there. Grandiose and radiant heavenly gates appear in view, radiating divine authority. The black archangels suddenly appear, crossing their weapons as they block the way. Kyo stops in disbelief after they reach him, while the black archangels order him to return. After passing through the shell of the nightmarish hell, a blinding blow erupts, overwhelming their formation in a single instant. The black archangels are thrown far away, their feathers spreading as they lose control. Kyo looks back shocked, wondering who could have done this. Suddenly, Gabriel descends from the sky, blocking the way with an overwhelming divine light. She calmly approaches and promises to take care of Silva, while calling Kyo her friend, asking him to leave her at the gates of heaven. Kyo watches in silence, feeling relieved. He approaches the door without hesitation. The word heaven resonates in Kyo's mind as light floods his vision. He silently calls Silva, acknowledging his long suffering. She insists that there is a more suitable place for her than heaven. Kyo shoots up, tearing the sky towards the gates, finally reaching the gates of Nirvana. Gabriel yells at Kyo to stop, warning him that Silva can't get through, and reveals that Nirvana is a realm reserved only for the purest souls, warning him that they will only crash into the door. The light intensifies as Quillo moves on without caring, while the system screen activates, and reveals that the ultimate karma has been activated, and his luck skyrockets without limits. Time starts a countdown as his power increases uncontrollably. Kyo whispers Silva's name with his unwavering determination. He speeds up, declaring that her nightmare will end here. Gabriel panics, accusing Kyo of trying to completely destroy her, warning that the door will not open. Resisting with divine strength, cracks form as the pressure builds firm inside the door itself, leaving Gabriel paralyzed by shock as the impossible happens. The door opens from the inside. A blinding golden presence emerges, radiating serenity, and revealing a golden Buddha, asking what is going on. The divine being notices that even Nirvana himself reacts, disturbed by Quillo's commotion as he advances. The Buddha is stunned, confused by the intrusion. Silva's form appears, bathed in a warm light. Her eyes widen wide at the realization. He realizes with joy that he has reached heaven. She calls to Kyo as his expression softens, filled with relief. He thanks her for everything as he floats away. Gabriel looks on in disbelief, admitting that he really made it. The Buddha angrily summons Gabriel, asking what the black magician is doing in his kingdom, but he calmly explains that it was all a misunderstanding. Q's body begins to fade as he accomplishes his task. The smoke begins to dissipate as he regains consciousness and wakes up in the rubble. Lying next to Silva's body, Silva rests in peace, with his eyes closed and free from suffering. Kyo watches her in silence, hoping that she will finally find happiness. Meanwhile, his peace is confirmed and resides in Nirvana itself. Silva sits alone on the shore, drawing symbols on the ground. Someone gently calls her by name. Her new friends invite her to play. She smiles and accepts his invitation, excited about her new life. His last drawing remains, capturing the memory of Kyo and Grunt. Meanwhile, on Earth, the quiet skyline of a city marks the beginning of another ordinary day. Someone picks up a set of keys, a sign that he is about to leave. The door opens, the light pours into the entrance. Suddenly, a woman warmly greets Miss Kuroda as she walks with a man next to her. Kyo's mom listens in silence, with an indecipherable expression. He returns the greeting calmly, his voice is soft. The girl comments that Kuroda seems to be in a better mood today, and asks if she is going to her son's grave to offer flowers. Kuroda politely rejects the suggestion presented to him. She looks up at the sky, believing that her son can still hear her. A golden ring is formed, showing the group reflected in its light. Kyo watches through the portal, his eyes filled with longing. From the other side, he presses his hand against the barrier that separates him. Tyria notices that she is staying there, wondering what occupies her thoughts. Grunt praises him as the most brilliant mind there is, convinced that Kyo must be planning something scary until he realizes something. He notices that Kyo keeps looking at the woman inside the portal. The word mother resonates as something hits Grunt's mind. Kyo shares that he now commands an entire army, and even rules a huge castle, which makes Grunt think he's trading military intelligence. Despite everything, he refuses to give up hope. Grunt believes that it was his mother who taught him everything. Kyo asks her to wait a little longer, promising that he will catch up with her soon. Grunt enthusiastically announces plans to conquer the universe. He screams as he approaches Kyo and calls his mom. He takes an oath on behalf of his clan, while calling Miss Kuroda mother. Grunt dedicates his sword to him, sealing his oath. She hesitated, unsure how such devotion should be expressed. Meanwhile, Kyo is alone in the vast living room, framed by imposing windows. Time passes as he reflects on the months he has spent in this world. Although she can take care of her mother, She admits that she has no way to return to Earth. Remember what Selva said, that some things in this world cannot be changed. As a black magician, he knows that certain paths are closed to him forever. He opens the door to his room until his eyesight sharpens and he sees something unexpected. Brunt excitedly points to Issa's mom on the portal again and calls her mom. That he either awkwardly thanks Grunt, regaining his composure, that he either remembers the black magician's past, as a former member of the Immaculate Order, just like Tyria, that he either thinks there must be a way to get back to being like before. He promises his mother that he will make it. His expression hardens as determination replaces doubt. He declares that he is going for it no matter the cost. Kyo orders Tyria to stop the transmission. With one last glance, he announces that it's time to move. The scene changes to shelves of potions and research materials. Kyo and his companions regroup inside the lab. A sudden magical explosion violently erupts in a jar that Gron is holding. Kyo admits that he has searched every corner of the black magician's laboratory. Selva interrupts him, asking him while holding a spell book, marked whose letter is in it. He replies that he can't really remember, bragging that he has too many worshippers to keep count. She notices that the text is written in the ancient demonic language, which makes it impossible for any of them to say it. He recognizes the writing as the unmistakable work of an ancient magician and suggests that its author might know how to purify black magic. His finger runs along the edge of the book as he carefully examines it. The pages open on their own, revealing dense and unfamiliar writings. Kyo notices a signature dedicated to the great black magician named after Talcum. The name echoes in his mind as he tries to remember where he has heard it before. He suddenly remembers meeting Talcum a long time ago, identifying him as a goblin. He reacts and calls Grunt instantly, asking if the name Talcum also rings a bell. Grunt asks if the wizard is referring to the wizard Talcum. Grunt explains that Talcum is one of the strongest goblins in existence. Kyo expresses his excitement and asks her to take him to the goblin. Grunt hesitates, admitting that his clan doesn't get along with the troll tribe, who reassures Grunt, putting a reassuring hand on his shoulder. He promises that as long as they stay together, Grunt will not be in danger. They arrive in the southern lands of the Drog tribe, surrounded by a luminous crimson sky. A goblin blows a horn, announcing his arrival. The group advances as his presence is loudly proclaimed to the tribe, who recognize the place. Remembering that he has been here many times before, remain calm, making sure that there is no need to panic. The magician Talcum appears seated on his throne, exuding authority. He recognizes the arrival of the great black magician. Talcum welcomes him, saying that it is always a pleasure to see him. Talcum observes the new assistants who accompany the black magician. He points out that one of them is a white magician. Talcum comments on the goblin medium, noting that such creatures are suitable for minor jobs. He asks what brings the black magician here so suddenly. Kyo declares that he seeks Talcum's knowledge and wants to clear the element of black magic. Talcum finds the request intriguing, but questions why the magician would want such a thing. Kyo reflects that explaining everything would require a long story. He declares that in order to achieve his goal, white magic must be used. Talcum explains that black and white magic cannot coexist in the same body. Despite this, Talcum offers to prepare a purification elixir. He warns that an extremely rare ingredient will be needed to complete the elixir. Talcum reveals that the necessary ingredient is the body of a white magician. Talcum calmly indicates that the preparation of the potion should begin. He wonders if the body of a white magician alone will really be enough. Tyria stiffens as a gloved hand is raised to protect her. Kyo intervenes, declaring that she is his advisor and is under his authority, exiled from the Immaculate Order. He promises to deliver the required ingredients soon and personally take responsibility. Talcum smiles, intrigued, and expresses his expectation. Footsteps resonate as the group begins to move. Kyo orders Grunt to organize a military council immediately, declares that the house has begun. His fortress stands under the night sky as preparations unfold. Behind the windows, Kyo reflects in silence. He recognizes that to speed up the purification, there is no alternative. Accepting the weight of his decision, he resolves to do something unforgivable. Quillo turns around with hardened determination. The conference room glows as the officers gather. Kyo addresses the military council and begins the meeting formally by passing the roll call. It is presented to the Minister of Finance, Lindell. The Minister of Torture, Snake, appears with a chilling smile. The Black Wizard Draven is named, his presence fraught with menace. Tyria, commander of the Anti-Immaculate Order, listen in silence. Grund is announced as a special advisor, beaming with pride, who suddenly stops looking at an empty chair. It is revealed that the priest General Sess is stationed in the Atlas Mountains. He is leading the army against the fierce clans of Grey Orcs. On a distant mountain, chaos erupts on the battlefield. An order resounds to massacre the enemy without mercy. Sess hits back at them without hesitation as he brutally cuts them down. Another orc advances through the carnage, his eyes shining as Sess remains calm. His cold gaze is fixed, brimming with murderous intent. A Grey Orc recoils in terror as Sess strangles him, cursing at the Grey Orcs as he expresses his disgust. You swear to finish them all to the last. Cease to stand on the corpses, absolute and impassive. Meanwhile, Gret is shaking as fear takes over him, upon watching Sess broadcast. Back in the council chamber, Kyo forces a smile to regain control. Explain the real reason for calling them all together. An extremely important agenda is revealed as the broadcast happens on the side. Kyo announces a crushing blow against the Immaculate Order, while Is declares that he will devour the orc's heart. Then follows the declaration to completely eliminate the Immaculate Order. Kyo names the White Magician as the main target. Suddenly, the transmission shakes the room with such intensity that Kyo asks Tyria to stop the transmission already. Snake asks if a specific target has been chosen. Tyria prepares to brag, hiding her true intentions. He raises his hand dramatically, declaring the end of the most evil white wizard in history. It is said that even experienced warriors tremble at the mere mention of his name. Lyndall agrees, acknowledging the magnitude of the threat. Talking about a man who commands the evil forces themselves, Snake admits that he has despised him for a long time, coldly reflecting on torture, hanging and murder, noting that the sins of the target are vile, even by demonic standards. Grunt praises the choice, declaring that this is the perfect time to finally eliminate that man. Kyo confirms the name of the enemy they must defeat. He is silent, the sweat appears as the weight of the decision settles. His expression tightens, hesitation surfaces briefly. The group suddenly panics after Kyo reveals that he means the ruthless Kano. He finally identifies the man, deciding that punishment is inevitable. Grund asks how they should handle the militia protecting him. He suggests deploying the Royal Canal Guard, the most feared mercenary force in the West. Kyo then orders Grunt to start preparing the army. The decision is final. They're going to war. After the meeting, Kyo walks around the castle alone, his determination hardening at every step. He remembers training tirelessly for weeks, preparing for this inevitable confrontation. He points out that Grunt has moved through his territories, gathering all the demons who were not on the expedition with Sizz, and that the preparations are almost complete. Grunt announces that the army is ready. He goes straight to the demon army, ordering their loyalty. The demons roar in unison, and form rows at his command. The drums of war are thundering as the army marches. Countless demons advance under flaming banners. A banner with the image of a woman attracts attention, disturbing Kyo. Grun reveals that he commissioned the best artists in the kingdom to create the mother's emblem. The emblem is burned on the skin of warriors to feed their hatred and determination. The brand burns deeply, marking them permanently. A demon screams for his mother, overcome by the ritual. The army sings wildly as the banner is raised. Kyo forces a strained smile, wondering if he's gone too far. The army advances towards the distant mountains at sunset. They are marching towards the lands of the west, towards the kingdom of Canal the Ruthless. A flying bat takes to the skies above the marching army. He scatters from the castle towers as the night stirs, entering through a window, until a blue light flashes from inside the room. Transforming into a sinister figure, Canal reveals himself and acknowledges that the Black Magician has made his decision. With a cruel smile, she calls him by his name, Kyo. The army of demons gathers in the ruthless kingdom of Canal. The battlefield is quietly taking shape. A horned demon inspects the weapons with quiet familiarity, preparing for the coming siege. Throughout the camp, The demons are moving in disciplined formations as preparations accelerate. Kyo is standing with his allies, indicating that everything is proceeding as planned. With quiet confidence, Kyo acknowledges that his plan has finally begun. Before facing Kano directly, Kyo makes sure that his luck is fully prepared. Several weeks earlier, his preparations had already been set in motion. In the depths of Snake's fortress, the dungeon of 1,000 torments looms in darkness. The chains clang as the prisoners shake. Sensing that something unnatural was approaching, Kyo quietly infiltrated the dungeon, observing the suffering inside. Calculating carefully, he confirmed that his assumptions about the system are correct. He resolved to release all those imprisoned there without hesitation. The prisoners reacted with disbelief as the sealed dungeon began to open. Screams erupted as they were urged to flee before Snake could react. Chaos spread through the dungeon as the captives raced to freedom. The system recorded a flood of good deeds as prisoners were released. The lucky points increased exponentially, confirming that Kilo's bet has paid off. Snake looked on in shock, unable to comprehend what was happening, as she ordered everyone to return. Snake realized too late that something had gone terribly wrong. They secure 100,000 lucky points, taking Kyo beyond the normal limits. With this advantage, Kanal no longer has any chance. As Tyria's impatience grows, he wonders how much longer the siege will continue to drag on. Kyo calmly reassures Tyria. Confident in his position, Grunt enthusiastically urges the army to advance without restrictions. Kyo and Tyria exchange a brief glance of complicity as Grunt informs, addressing Kyo with respectful emotion. He confirms that the tunnel preparations are completely finished. Kyo praises the work, explaining that the tunnel bypasses Kanal's defenses. The group regroups, ready to move as one. Suddenly, a warning comes from Snake. The militia has launched an attack. His forces attack the forward base with brutal speed. Kyo immediately realizes that Kanal has been ahead of schedule. He orders Tyria and Grunt to stay close and proceed carefully. Without hesitation, Kyo orders the army to advance through the tunnel. He entrusts Snake with the leadership of the main forces and the task of pushing back the militia. Snake accepts with confidence. His murderous intent is manifested, as he has been wanting to vent, after believing that a heretic freed all his prisoners. Kyo goes down the tunnel, while showing his nervousness at knowing that he was that heretic. In the tunnel, Grunt tells them to follow him, but Tyria angrily replies that it is a straight path. Further on is the residential district of Kanal, untouched by chaos. A movement stirs in the grass, signaling hidden dangers. The group finally emerges to the surface. They stop briefly to assess their surroundings. Kyo identifies the private district of Kano as his destination. He points to the imposing structure in the center of the area and declares that the time has finally come to solve everything. They proceed to climb the stairs in silence. In the depths of the fortress, Kyo advances with his companions through a heavily guarded hall. Grunt suddenly lunges from the side, initiating a reckless ambush. The intrusion draws attention as the figures at the end of the hallway react instantly. Kyo stops, recognizing his target immediately. Kanal calmly turns around, already waiting for his arrival. He raises a wine glass, the surface of which reflects a watching eye. Kanal smiles, savoring the moment as she acknowledges his arrival. Quillo confronts him directly, declaring the end of his reign. Kanal drops his wine as he heads to Quillo, knowing that this day would always come. He scoffs at the idea of being surprised or unprepared. Crimson bonds burst without warning, cutting the space around him. A huge red cage forms, locking Quillo and his allies inside. He scoffs, wondering if such a simple construction can stop him. The magic reacts violently as it tries to free itself. He notices that his mana is no longer responding. Tyria reveals that the cage is impossible to dispel or overpower and explains that it is a forced confiscation prison that nullifies all magic equally. Kanal acknowledges the knowledge of the black magician with a slight respect. Tyria recognizes the prison as a supreme relic of the white Mage. The truth settles in as Kanal reveals the origin of the relic he stole from the Immaculate Order after being expelled. Trapped and powerless, Tyria realizes that she is completely at his mercy. While Kyo comments that killing him now should be easy, he invites the attack without fear. Kanao gladly accepts, showing his hostility. A devastating spell is unleashed point blank, as he declares that he will see Kyo in hell again. The attack descends like a trial destined to end everything. Tyria's desperate cry echoes as the explosion approaches. Kyo instantly activates the ultimate karma, pushing luck beyond all limits. The destructive magic turns violently against him and fractures the prison itself. Kanao recoils in disbelief as long as the result is reversed. Dust and shadows engulf the camera as the structure collapses. Kyo wonders if this is the end of Channel Theatrix as he remains unscathed amid the aftermath. While his enemy grits his teeth in frustration. Not even Kanao can comprehend the magic that intervened. He strikes back by using his power, revealing multidimensional magic and escalating the battle even further. The Sock takes over Kyo upon seeing a vision of his mother from Earth. Kunal coldly smiles as he pronounces Quillo's name. Kunal addresses him calmly, already treating him like a prey. He reveals that he has been watching Kyo from the shadows for a long time in the form of a bat. Through a glowing portal, Kyo watched his mother through the rain and snow. Kunal recalls the moment when he finally realized the truth about his existence, bluntly stating that Kyo is not originally from this planet. He explains that Kyo was sent here by a guide from beyond this world. He coldly declares that his next target will be Quillo's mother. Bronte panics as the truth is revealed, screaming in shock. Kanao effortlessly controls the golden portal, demonstrating his dominance. Taria urges him not to panic as the enemy continues to explain. It is revealed that only white magicians can use multidimensional magic strong enough to cross worlds. Null taunts them, confirming that Kyo lacks the power to stop him. He casually reveals that he also stole a powerful artifact. Tyria realizes that escape is impossible, while the enemy smiles with certainty. He reveals that the artifact called the Passage Vial contains a sample of a white magician. It is explained that Beberdell allows temporary travel between worlds, even though such relics are forbidden. Kunal crushes another vial, declaring that only one was left intact. He drinks the sample without hesitation. His body reacts violently. With a burst of light, he prepares to leave the world completely. Kunal floats towards the portal, heading to Quillo for the last time. He tells Quillo to say goodbye for the last time. Quillo freezes with fear as she promises to kill him on his return. Through the portal, Quillo sees her mother walking alone in the real world. Kunal runs through it, approaching her directly. Kunal's satisfied smile is shown as Quillo screams in despair and begs him to stop. He screams for his mother. Panic completely takes over him. The system is activated, but at first nothing seems to happen. Kyo realizes that his ultimate karma is still not activating. Kyo begs Tyria to do something while the time is running out. He apologizes helplessly, admitting that his current self cannot cross worlds. She screams his name, begging for help. His voice cracks as desperation reaches its peak. The cage closes further, trapping them in a hopeless silence. Suddenly, something strange begins to distort reality. Tyria looks around in shock, feeling a sudden change. The leaves are spreading as the scenery changes abruptly. Young Kyo appears in a quiet park running by his side. He realizes in disbelief that he is no longer in the magical world and recognizes Kyo. Tyria screams her title in shock as Kyo cheerfully counts the money she saved during the year. He explains that he spent the winter mowing the lawn to save money. Kyo happily talks about walking dogs every day. He remembers washing cars every time the owner came home from work. He proudly says that he did everything for his father. Kyo approaches his bike, full of innocent energy. He admits that his father never accepts the money, knowing that he is in debt. Kyo says he understands how miserable that makes his dad feel. She puts her savings in a basket with a kind smile. The system recognizes the act, labeling it as a special good deed, while karma begins to calculate. Quillo meets his father on the street again, surprised but happy to see him. The system begins to silently recalculate karma in the background, as if a glitch were to occur. His father gives him a gentle pat on the head, saying he has to go to work. The balance of karma suddenly tips violently as negative karma increases. Quillo asks if his father will be home for dinner, smiling innocently. He waves enthusiastically as his father drives away in his vehicle. Kyo screams that he loves his dad with all his heart. Her father turns around, smiling softly as he says he loves Kyo too. The next instant, a violent accident occurs at the scene. Tyria watches in horror as Kyo calls her father. She is shaking, shocked by what she has just witnessed. Reality fails around him as the scene changes forcibly. He finds himself at a funeral watching Kyo's family reunite. The atmosphere becomes heavy as grief fills the air. A coffin with a cross confirms the truth he had. The young Kyo collapses, overwhelmed with guilt. Tears run down her eyes as she blames herself for her father's death. His mother hugs him tightly, telling him not to say such things. Kyo admits that deep down he already knew the truth. He runs forward, collapsing as they shout his name. Kyo apologizes repeatedly, convinced that everything is his fault. He believes that misfortune always follows him, no matter what he does. Tyria shudders as she realizes how deeply broken he is. Kyo confesses that he has always known that he is cursed. Tyria pleads for help, her voice trembling. Kyo cries, saying that he doesn't want his mother to die because of him. Tyria gently reassures him, telling him not to worry. She promises him that she will help him no matter what. Surprising Kyo, Tyria feels that an unknown force awakens in her. Tyria admits that she does not understand what is happening, but she is clearly sorry. In the present, Kyo is confused to witness something strange happening to Tyria. Her eyes sparkle when she realizes, knowing that she can do it now. Activate the supreme multidimensional magic, and a huge door to cross worlds begins to open. Tyria urges him to pass before he collapses. Kyo screams that black magic is blocking his way. Grunt realizes that the spell reacts specifically to Kyo, so he offers to do it instead. Meanwhile, Kanal clenches his sword, preparing to attack Miss Kuroda. He approaches her with murderous intent, until Grunt pounces at full speed. Kanal is hit, and flies out violently. Grunt's foot crashes to the ground as she regains her balance, swearing that she will not let anyone hurt her, not allowing even a finger to be put on Quillow's mom.